Welcome back to another episode of the Solo in Seattle podcast, where we talk about growth, transitions, and thriving through the solo seasons of life. Today's guest is someone who's no stranger to reinvention. Meet Kathy, an empowerment coach helping women confidently navigate midlife transitions and design a bold, beautiful next chapter. Whether you're dealing with divorce, empty nest syndrome, raise his hand, career pivots, or just asking what's next for me, Kathy is here to drop some wisdom, clarity, and real talk. Let's get into it because your second act might just be your best yet. Hey,
Yes.
lovely.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to finally be here. Yes.
I know it's been months in the making.
Yes.
So you and I have been chatting and checking in and trying to figure out our schedules, and you have been booked and busy.
Yes. Yes.
We met, gosh, was it the spring?
Probably.
It was in the spring. We met through a networking group and we were at Soak and Sage
Yeah.
and we clicked.
Oh my gosh.
We sat right next to each other and I was probably sitting there cussing up a storm like a little bad baby.
No, no, no. That couldn't be you.
being being my authentic crazy self, and then we just kind of we just kept being next to each
Yeah.
other that
Yeah.
whole day that we were there at Soak and Sage.
And I remember you did the cold plunge
Oh my god,
and you'd never done a cold plunge.
never done it.
And I just sat there and talked to you the whole time.
Yes.
Breathe, girl, you got this.
And I did the whole
And
5
you
minutes.
did. And it was like, yes, she did it. And then we did our photo sesh.
Yes.
Oh my
Oh, and then
God.
you got that slim shot of me. I was like, I thirst trap with that photo. I'm like,
Look at
yeah. Oh my gosh, that is so crazy how, that day was just so sweet. It
well,
was so sweet.
it was just, it was magical on so many levels. When you have a conversation with someone you've never met before,
Yes.
and you can have a real conversation.
Mhm.
You and I have talked about that, is that you can go to a networking event,
Mm.
sit next to somebody and cold as ice, looking down their nose at you,
Mhm.
condescending, and then you sit down to somebody who asks you a question
Yeah.
that you never thought would come out of somebody else's mouth. Did you just ask me that?
And
Well,
did.
yes, yes. And are you going to answer me?
Yeah,
Right?
waiting,
Right?
waiting.
And then you laugh and you get real and honest.
Yeah.
When we can get real and honest with each other with a complete stranger, I mean,
Yeah.
I tell that all the time to people that come to my workshops and my events. They're like, "Well, I don't have anybody come with me." I said, "Sweetie, that's the best way
Girl,
to show up
please.
because then nobody is there judging you."
Yeah.
And you're not judging anybody else there. When
Yeah.
you don't know somebody, you don't come with the judgment of who you've been.
Yeah. Oh my God. If you don't get away from me right now, that was so good. No, seriously. I talk about this in my podcast episodes over and over and over. You are allowed to be a different version of yourself.
Mm,
I'm probably a different version that of myself that you met a few months ago. Still the same core, but better, smarter, wiser, stronger, resilient, right?
evolving,
Evolving.
evolving. I
Yeah.
mean, when we stop evolving and growing,
Mhm.
we get stagnant,
Yeah.
we get bored,
Bored.
and we get boring.
No, never.
I
Yeah.
mean, you've met those friends.
Yeah, I was her. I
But when you can have that conversation, when you can find growth with strangers, then you start to reassess why I'm not finding growth with the
Yeah,
people around me.
seriously. Oh, or when you can have that little giggle
Mhm.
and it's just like this, I get you, girl. When you or you have that pause where you're like, light
You know,
bulb.
it's like it is those comments when someone says or shares something
Yeah.
and somebody else gets the aha moment. And you see it in the faces, right? Where they go, shit,
Yep.
never thought of it that way.
Yeah, or when it gets better and they say it out loud, that self-reflective moment
Yeah.
is the most powerful. And I mean, I am known for walking up to the group and saying that and being the new person in the circle and then being, why are you doing it that way? And being so curious
Yes.
of, please help me understand, why have you been doing it this whole way?
So
Yeah.
so I went to this event and it was thinning. and there's this beautiful backdrop. And I had just taken some photos of somebody, and they had taken photos of me. And I turned, there's a woman there, and she's like, "Oh, you take a few photos of me." And I'm like, "Sure, sit down here, you know." And she sits down and she pulls her jacket closed. And I went, "Sweetie, do not cover those girls up. Do you know what you're signaling to your body by doing
Mhm.
that?"
Yep, there's
And
no
she's
shame
and
here.
you and I get along
Mhm.
because we're both going to be honest in that moment,
Yeah.
because she needed to hear what she was closing herself off.
And what's so interesting about that was that took me back to a moment in my life when I was heavier. I would wear oversized clothes.
Mm.
I would always wear tunics, or I would always wear oversized crew sweaters and men's sizes.
And
Yeah.
you hide your beautiful little middle?
Yep.
Really,
Yep.
girlfriend? I would
Yep.
come up and I'd be tying it. And I have friends. I'm like, "Girlfriend, you're wearing that baggy shirt. I'm taking a shot from behind.
Yeah.
Knot it and tuck it in the front.
That's
Nobody will see it because I want to see the little middle that you
yes.
have to show."
Yes, yes,
And
absolutely.
my best friend, she is amazing. Blonde hair, blue eyes. She is curvy.
Yeah.
She owns those curves.
Amen.
She has a Jessica Rabbit dress
Oh, yes.
that
Like, I'm
we did
like
a
I'm like
photo
I'm like
shoot.
warming up. I'm like,
Oh my gosh. It was like, "Girl, turn around and show that booty."
"Thank you."
Because I don't have that booty. My booty's cute. And
Yeah.
it's perky for 60, it's not
Yeah.
that bad, but damn, girl, show off those curves, those
Yeah.
perky boobs. Shows it's cut down to here, and
Mhm.
I could show you the photo, and you'll be like, "Okay, I want that photo. I
Yeah.
wanna do that dress. I wanna be
No,
that."
seriously,
And
like,
we all should.
we all should. You know what? Love yourself.
Yes.
That's all it takes is
Yeah.
and I talked about this at one point in one of my podcast episodes. I didn't realize how much I hated myself for a long time.
Mhm.
And then when I realized that it wasn't me that I hated, it was my environment.
Yeah.
It was the people around me. It was the people who were trying to silence me or keep me where I was because it was
Mhm.
comfortable for them.
Well, and we as women have so many signals we send our body,
Yeah.
right? And so many unconscious things, so much that's come before us.
Mhm.
So many comments we're still holding on to,
Oh yeah.
right? It's easy to say, love your body,
Sure.
right? Love yourself. It's not so easy to do.
Yeah. No, seriously.
I mean, I had a workshop that I did, and the women, I asked them to write down one thing they loved about their body. And I had two women burst into tears because they
Oh,
couldn't
it's so
come up
hurtful
with
though,
something.
right?
But then we turned it around because we
Yeah.
talked about you don't have to love it. Maybe you like it.
Yeah.
Maybe you get neutral with it. I said, but
Mhm.
let's reassess what we're looking at when we talk about our body.
No, seriously.
I said, I love my shoulders.
Mm,
I love my shoulders, damn, because they're really good.
yeah.
But because I work out,
Right.
but I love my shoulders because I can be that friend where
Mhm.
someone can put their head down and cry. Why wouldn't I love my shoulders? If
Seriously.
I nursed my babies and held my
Go
babies and their little
ahead.
heads, I'm like, why wouldn't I love my shoulders? So rather than look at an aesthetic that somebody
Mhm.
else has told you you're supposed to
Yeah.
be, love your body and the parts of it for the
Mhm.
things that it does for you, for
Yeah.
the things that it's done for you. I love my smile. Why? Because it can change a person's day. Why wouldn't you love a smile?
My favorite thing is my laugh.
Yeah.
I always am laughing.
Yeah. Joy.
Like, it's just joy, and it doesn't even matter. I could be in the most serious of situations, and then I giggle, not because I'm nervous or anything or whatever, but it's just like I see the silver lining.
Well, and see, that's the thing, right? I try to do, that serene look, the yogi look. Every time someone tries not to get me to smile or where I'm not smiling, to just
Yeah.
just relax your face. Yeah, no, I look like I'm frowning.
Yeah, no, that's not gonna ever work.
Bec And this is how I explained it to someone. I said, "You're trying to get me to go against who I am."
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. If you capture the moment because I'm not aware, but if I'm aware you're taking the photo,
Yeah.
I naturally am. the joy is in there, in
Right.
your laughter,
Yeah.
right? In my smile, I can't help but be
Or even like
smiling.
my sing-songy voice. Like when I walked up to you and I was like, "Hello."
Hello, friend.
Hey,
Yes.
friend. I
Yeah,
think that is just kind of like the trademark,
yeah,
it's the icebreaker
yeah,
or like even just like, the extending the arm out for the hug. And
yeah,
it's okay if people are not huggers. Some
yeah,
people don't like to be touched. It's okay. Like
yeah,
if you don't receive that, like I will
that's right.
not be
Nope.
offended. Like no problem. It's just boundaries and just learning how to navigate people and navigating yourself in spaces that really welcome that. And I had some of the sweetest feedback from, somebody that I was doing a training with the other day. They were like, your personality is so warm. Your personality is so warm and you're so inviting and you make everything you do fun. And this was a boring training for my day job.
No, the thing is that it spreads, right?
Yeah.
It's the ripples. It is infuses
No,
everything.
seriously.
I mean,
Yeah.
I know this woman at the gym that I work at. She has the most incredible laugh. I can always find her in the gym because
Yeah.
she's constantly laughing and she's got this big, boisterous laugh. And I told her one day, I said, never stop. She goes, oh, sorry.
No,
I'm like, no,
no, we're not.
no, no. Do
Mm-mm.
not let
Mhm.
anybody tell you to be quiet from your
That's it.
laughter.
Never, ever.
She burst into tears.
So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to become an empowerment coach for midlife transitions?
For me, so my journey began 10 years ago. So
Mhm.
10 years ago, I have twins. I did the corporate, I did the stay-at-home mom. I moved to multiple states. So that's a lot of transitions, right? A lot of pivoting. And then they left. They went away to college, both
Mhm.
of them. I knew it was going to happen, right? I
We're
didn't.
never ready.
Well, the thing is that I knew they were going, obviously, the minute they said yes to the colleges they chose.
Yeah.
One was 5.5 hour drive. The other was a 5.5 hour flight. He's
Mhm.
still that 5.5 hour flight 10 years later. But I didn't want them to limit themselves. I mean, there were so many parents that were my peers that were sad because their kids were going, and where we live, they were going to Shoreline or or Western. And I'm like,
Mhm.
"Are you freaking kidding me? Something happens to your kid, you can be there in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
If there's snow on the path, I can't get to my kid, and I can't get to the other one." I literally got a phone call from my child's friend on his phone because he was in the ER
Oh.
with the flu on the East Coast,
Mm.
right? So my journey began 10 years ago because they'd left, and I started navigating, okay, well, who am I now? Right? Because I went from very busy to very quiet,
Yeah.
but I knew it was coming. So I did some planning ahead of time. Then a friend of mine after COVID, she got her life coaching certification. She said, I want you to be a part of my group.
Nice.
I'm like, well, what do I have to give? I'm like 55 years old and you're like in your 30s.
Yeah.
What am I going to help with the women that are coming to yours? And she goes, more than you know.
Mm.
She knew. We'd met because we were influencers
Yeah.
together. We met at an influencer event and we stayed friends. I said, "Oh, well, okay. And how much is it? Free? Okay, sure. Why not?
Perfect.
Why not?" Right? That is my new phrase. It's why not?
Do it.
And I did it. And in that masterclass, that group coaching class, I was open. I was honest. I was myself. I called people out. There was a young girl, and I'm like, well, why are you listening to your parents about what the definition of success is?
Mm.
If you're happy and you want to pursue this and it brings you joy, that's success. Doing a job that you hate,
Or
bringing
going on a track that you regret.
correct.
Yeah.
And she goes, I never thought about that. It was one of those things that I did that. Through that, I got my yoga certification at 56. I got my hit and flow certification right after that. And a year later, I told her, I think I want to be a life coach. When I talk to people, I share with them, I've done all of these things. I've had 60 years of life. I love all the young life coaches and the women that want to help. And there's things that they can do, but I got 60 years behind me. I have
Yeah.
a BS degree in biology.
Thank you.
I've been in fitness my whole life.
Tell them.
I have life. I've raised my kids. That's life coaching. They're adulting,
Yeah,
right?
I agree with you 1,000%, and I tell people this, I have lived multiple chapters of
Yeah.
life before you even started.
Yeah.
I have been married I have been divorced. I have been in a long-term relationship. I know what it's like to be in love. I know what it's like not to be in love. I know what it's like to raise a child. I know what it's like to send a child to college.
Mhm.
You can't tell me shit.
Right?
Like, girl, like, I could care less about the hunger
Yeah.
because I'm already fed.
I love that. I love that. So for
Yeah.
me, when people ask me, "How long have you been a life coach?" I go, "My whole
My
life."
whole life.
Because I was always that friend people came to
Thank
that
you.
knew that they could share something and it wouldn't go anywhere else.
Mhm.
I was that person they came to that would go, "Okay, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that?" I was giving it away for free,
Yeah.
just being me.
'Cause you have to build your
Yes,
network, but then you have to also add value
but I'm
both
saying
ways,
I'm saying I did that way before,
for sure.
right? I was always that person. I had staff.
Yeah.
So the first thing I was blessed as a teenager twice as my boss and my best friend as a teenager. But as a boss, the first thing I said to all of my staff was, "Okay, what's your goal?
Mhm.
Where are you going to go from here?
Yep.
I know that your life is not this gym
Right.
and teaching swim lessons. I'm glad you're here, but what are you thinking for the rest of your
Yeah.
life?
What's beyond this?
What's beyond
Yeah.
this?"
How far can you see?
Right? And most of them had never had
Mhm.
that conversation, even with their parents.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my son's friends came over the other day, and they love I have this huge sectional, and they all pile on there.
Yeah.
They're 19-year-old boys, and we're sitting there, and we're talking, and they're like, "Oh, what do you think about this idea? I wanna be an entrepreneur. I wanna do this. I wanna do that." I was like, "Okay, but how are you going to find the niche and the demand that's missing?" And then you pivot off of that. That's how you become
Yeah.
the
Six. Yes.
ideal picture of movement, and you build your success off of that because you are fine tuning the craft of the deficiency. You have to cut out the fat somewhere. Had jobs, we've all had careers, we've all
Mhm.
worked, and we all can say something about what's missing. Well, fill the gap.
Exactly.
And that is exactly how you should do that. So, how would you define midlife? Is it an age range? Is it a mindset? Or is it a mix of both?
It's a mix of both. When I think of midlife, it is any time there is a point, right? It can be in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, your 70s, your 80s, right? Where you are sitting there and going, something has to change.
Yeah.
I don't know what. I don't know where I'm going with it. You've given your life to whatever's come before that,
Mm,
and it's not filling your cup anymore,
yeah.
right? It's not fulfilling you. It's not
Yeah.
making you happy, right? Maybe you want to stay in that marriage because
Hmm.
it's not bad and it's comfortable, but then figuring out how can you add some other joy into your life,
Hmm.
right? So it can be that empty nest. It can be a relationship change,
Yeah.
right?
It can
That's
be
a change of some kind.
It can be after you have went through labor and they handed you that baby and you realized
Oh,
for myself, I only had eyes for my baby.
yeah,
I no longer saw my husband. And I knew at that point it was over
yeah,
because I
yeah.
could only see and commit to my son. That husband that I had before, that life partner I thought I had, not that he did anything specific. I mean, he did, but he didn't, because he told me he didn't want to be a father. But he also was like, well, my family says that we have to get married because we live in the South. So
Oh, yeah.
I was like, okay, fine. Because no one's going to want me with the baby, this, that, and the other, this generalization that was
Mhm.
false. Because I've knocked motherhood out the park,
Yeah.
flying by myself. So, anyways, but yeah, I want people who are listening to this podcast to think, you know, where are you at in your life? And like Kathy said, you don't have to be, at the end scope. There's
Yeah.
no specific age range. We're talking about if something has changed that has created a thought pattern to question
Yes.
to your dignity, to question where you're at with your relationship with yourself, with your spouse, with whomever else, right?
Well, and it's recognizing that you want to stop living life on autopilot,
Mm,
right? Is your life you're doing the same thing every day. It's that hamster wheel
yeah.
because everybody else told you this is what you're supposed to be doing,
Oh, for sure.
but you are miserable as all get out,
No,
right?
seriously.
And you are at that point where you're going, I don't think this still working?
Hmm.
And your
Yeah.
answer is
Nope.
no,
That's
no.
that is such a loud silence. Is when you wake up and you look to your left, you look to your right, you look up, and you don't wanna get out of bed because you're like, "God damn, another one of these days." Something needs to pivot. You look at your spouse and you're like, "I hate the sound of your voice. This asshole
Do I have to pick up those socks one more goddamn time off the
this
side of the bed?
asshole would bring me coffee and tell me good morning and fuck up my day."
Yes, yes,
Like, why are you talking to me
yes.
this early? Girl, if or guy, if you hear that and that resonates with you, Kathy has an empowerment class, midlife
Mhm.
class, all that class that can help you reframe because listen, it is not worth it. It is not worth staying there.
It is so many of us put up with so much crap from the people in our lives,
Yeah.
right? And you don't need it from your friend.
Mm-mm.
You don't need it from your family,
No.
and you sure as hell don't need it from your partner or spouse.
Speaking of, who inspired your personal journey into empowerment work? Great segue.
Honestly, for me, years ago, as an influencer,
Yeah.
I did this event and it was during COVID and they did summer camp. And so we had these little segments that we did throughout the day via Zoom. This is
Yeah.
new, it was during COVID. Well, it wasn't even right at the beginning of COVID. And we had this social media thing. And
Mhm.
I went on it and I wasn't at that journey yet, but something stuck from the conversation because they were going on and on about your niche, your niche, your niche, your niche. What's your
Mhm.
niche? Your niche. You have to niche, you have to niche. And I honestly, because that's who I am, typed in the chat, I don't know what my freaking niche is. Can any of you tell me? I mean, I know all of you and y'all know me. What is my niche?
Yeah.
Immediately, someone came back, empowerment. And the next person, heck yes. Oh my God, that's so you. And it just went on and on and on. And they said, everything you infuse, no matter what post, if you were talking food, if you were talking fitness, if you were
Mhm.
talking life, everything was infused with empowering people, inspiring people to empower themselves.
That's right.
So when I sat down and said, well, what's my niche? Because
Mhm.
my own life coach said, what's your niche going to be? I said, well, empowerment. And really, for me, and I didn't know this, right, until I did my own life coaching certification.
Yeah.
And I picked a specific one that really resonated with me. It took me
Mhm.
a long time to find the right one for me
For
because
sure.
it needed to be a blend of who I am in all the avenues I've been and all the versions I've been before me to enhance me,
Yeah.
not to take away, right? And so we learned about human design, and it's one of the things that I work with my clients on.
Yeah.
It's one of my modalities, my tools in my toolbox. And I am a manifesting generator. I pivot like no man's business. I'm really good at pivoting.
Amen.
And so when I started to think, how do I express what I do for others as I help them through those pivots, those transitions?
Yeah.
Through figuring out where to go next. Maybe it's I like my job, but I want to work for another company. That's not me.
No.
I'm not a business coach. I'm not a career coach. There's people that do that.
Yeah.
That's not me. I'm the one where I don't like my job anymore.
Mm.
Okay, well, let's talk about what your strengths are.
Mhm.
What do you like doing?
Let's
Let's
remind you
explore.
who the F you are.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah, and along the way for any avenues that come there, I think, so many times we give ourselves away to all the shoulds and the musts in our lives, to
Mm.
the other people in our lives, that we forget who we are,
Yeah. And
right?
it's so important, and I can attest to this. I always say, as I am, evolving into this version of myself in my 40s, I look back at the Amanda who, channeled through her 30s, and I was silenced. I moved out here 11 years ago and I say this all the time. I wanted to be someone completely different than who I was when I moved here. I
Mhm.
wanted to be educated, I wanted to be powerful, I wanted to date a certain type of man, I wanted to curate a certain type of life. I wanted to have my son grow up in a certain neighborhood. I did all of those things. And I'm very grateful
Mhm.
for that life that I curated, but it wasn't me. I'm a wild animal.
Well,
I love it here.
and that's, and that's what one of those things that the hardest part when you first have that conversation with a new person,
Yeah.
right? is when you get honest with them
Mhm.
and they admit that they feel broken.
Mm,
Something in me must be broken
yeah.
because I'm not happy with this or I'm not happy with that. You're not broken.
Nope.
You're becoming.
Thank you. I told somebody that I met the sweetest little 25-year-old person who thinks I am the best thing since, we'll just say sugar. I told her, I said, "You hang around me long enough, you'll become the woman you always imagined."
Yeah.
And that is real talk.
Well, and that's who you want around you, is the
Mhm.
ones that want everything for you.
Yeah.
They don't want to
And
limit you.
nothing from you.
Yes. Yeah. Can we
Everything
have
for
that?
you and nothing from you. There is a difference. And I had to realize this as well as I started moving in these different circles
Mm,
is I'm plus wanting all of these people to things. I'm inviting people to all of these things, but I'm not being invited. You're not
mm,
helping me grow.
yeah.
And for me, loose lips sink ships. I'm never going to change. I'm never going to stop inviting. I'm never going to do any of those things. You will sort yourself out. I don't have to do it for you
No.
because
But we'll see through.
yeah, just such a harmful culture whenever you're trying to curate your friends, which I talked about in my past episode, and you really look at these personas and you're like, "Man, they're such a cool this, that, and the other." And then you actually get around them and you're like, "That face card declined."
The face card decline. Well, and it's you feel it.
Oh
When
yeah.
you're in touch with who you are,
Yep.
and you are. You walk in and you meet that person, you're like,
And I think that's
it's that ick
why
factor.
yeah, ick. Yeah. And that's why I think you and I clicked and we sat next to each other because we aligned so well because we're like, girl, we've been there, done that.
We don't
Yeah.
give a
And it's like, yeah. Anyways,
yeah.
we're not going to channel that other energy.
No.
What are some of the biggest transitions you see your clients facing in midlife?
Empty nest. And we talked about this a little bit ago. That empty nest isn't just the kids leaving, it's also the kids needing you less
Mhm.
because you start to feel that pull away and you want
Mhm.
to grab.
Oh, yeah.
You want to hold on tight because your identity is so wrapped up in that child or
Oh, yeah.
children. That empty nest starts a lot sooner than we actually realize. So
Mm.
we start filling it with this and filling it with that, filling it with that. So
Yeah.
hopefully that, oh, maybe when they leave and maybe they won't leave and maybe they're starting to figure out who they are
Yeah.
and you don't want to trap them.
No, that's the worst thing that you could do. Yeah.
And we see it so much, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I
That
love that
control.
yes. And it's like people were like, "You're sending your son on a plane to go visit this
Mhm.
college?" "Yes."
Right.
"Aren't you
Autonomy.
you're not going with him?"
No, we
"No."
teach autonomy over here.
Yeah. It's like, "I'm not gonna go fly on the
Yeah.
plane every time he goes to
No,
college, so
seriously.
no."
Like let that man live.
Yes, it's that emptiness, the
Yeah.
transition when the kids are needing you less, the relationships, because a lot of people, and you speak to this a lot of people, relationships are a struggle.
Yeah.
And they're not easy. And sometimes you need help through that to figure out who you are outside of that relationship.
Mm.
Or maybe even the relationship is just transitioning and how to navigate that transition within the relationship,
Right.
right? My husband and I, we dated the entire time we had kids. I knew who he was, but
Yeah.
how many people do we know that get to the point where the kids leave and they're looking at each other, then who the fuck are you?
Exactly. Like, why are you still here?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna tell you something. I stayed in my last relationship for 10 years. We met when my son was 8 years old,
Mm.
and I stayed with this man until my son's senior year, and I couldn't take it. I couldn't do it. But I was like, "God damn it. I wanna stay with him until my son goes to college, so it's an easier cutoff. So it's an easier transition." Let me tell you something, Kathy. When I let this motherfucker go, we both soared. I didn't even think my son was gonna get into college. I didn't even think that my son gave a shit about being successful. As soon as I cut that cancer out, my
Pow.
son created 3 digital apps and launched them. He graduated at the top of his class and turned his senior year around. This kid got into the UW Maine late application.
Oh, chills,
These things
chills,
were
girl.
not possible when I stayed. I was not able to be who I truly wanted to be because I was silenced. And I didn't realize the power of silence until I let it go.
Yeah. Well, and when we stay in a relationship, I just had a conversation with a young woman yesterday, actually. And I said, "So, what are you noticing now? It's 3 weeks post the breakup." And he broke her heart. Said she's starting to notice the things that she gave up, the things that she put up with
Mhm.
because she thought, well, he's a great guy, but
No,
these parts of him suck
he was
really
a
bad.
shell of what she
Yes.
wanted the great guy to look like.
And I said, so you can take this time to figure out who you really want.
Who you really wanna become,
Yeah.
actually,
So
without him.
and so it is, there is so much that when we stay in something that
Yep.
isn't working for the sake of staying in something, we lose even more of ourselves.
Exactly, and that leads into how do societal pressures or internalized beliefs affect how women view midlife? Because I know for me, I shared it earlier, I got pregnant and we were pressured to get married
Mhm.
because I was brainwashed into thinking nobody would want me with a baby. Listen, everybody wants me, okay? Everybody loves me. And I'm
Yeah.
talking about in a I'm not talking about in a sexual relationship. People
No.
just in general, like I'm a magnet. I'm a magnet to people.
Y
I have never once felt like a single mother. Never.
No.
I have had a village for 19 years. I continue to have a village.
Yes.
So that was a farce.
Well, and it's a story they tell you.
Mm,
And so society tells women
yep.
at midlife, no matter where that midlife is, that it's the end. It's not. It's just the beginning. It's the
Rebirth.
beginning. It's we fade into the background and the kids grow and our bodies change. And there's so many messages we internalize that you're too old, it's too late, you're no longer relevant. That's
Yeah.
a big one. I mean, I literally went to a yoga studio, and this was when I was practicing yoga 4 days a week before
Mhm.
my certification. Went to a yoga studio, and I was sitting on my mat waiting for the class to start. And the young instructor came up to me and said, "Do you mind moving to the back of the room? Is there a particular reason?"
That's awful.
Ageism.
Yeah.
And I said, "Sure, it gets better." So I did because I had 2 friends and they were in a back row. So I sat with them and we did our yoga class. We left. And then I asked for the manager
Mhm.
afterwards. I said, "So let's start off and have a conversation about what happened in there."
Yeah.
And I said, "I'm a woman
Mm,
in a class. The first time I took the class in your studio, you just left a really bad taste in my mouth, and I'm a influencer in fitness.
yeah.
Do you think I'm gonna be bragging about your studio ever again?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Your instructor asked me to move to the back of the room." Now, in hindsight, I'm probably kinda glad because the guy in front of me was wearing leggings that were see-through, and I
Yeah.
really did not wanna be behind him in down
Girl,
dog.
please don't tell me it was hot yoga.
Yes, it was.
Oh, girl, the smell.
And I'm like, "Not a good idea," but I'm like, I am I hope
Yeah.
that no other person is made to feel the way she made me
Yeah.
feel.
Mhm.
So for us, society tells us that we're done.
Mm.
We're over.
I wish they would.
No, no,
Girl, I am
we're
just
here.
getting
We're
started.
here to challenge that narrative,
No,
right? It
seriously.
is not a decline. It's time for us to open that door.
And what I love so much about myself is that I'm in these circles with these 20 and 30 somethings, and they think I'm their peer. And I'm like, I have a son your age.
I always laugh. It's like, so I've been married for 39 years and I
Yeah.
have 30-year-old twins. And they're like, "What?"
Yeah.
But that's because we don't exude how do I want to
We're
say
not
this?
ready to sit down.
No. Heck no.
We're not ready to sit down.
Mm-mm,
We are
mm-mm.
here.
No,
We are
no.
standing tall and we have arrived.
We bring the wisdom,
Yep.
the experience,
And the
and the freedom. 'Cause
freedom.
we feel we are free and we recognize we are free to be who
Yeah.
we want to be. So we are here to encourage other women to find that freedom.
Find it sooner than you think.
Yes. And I have a new client, just started with her, and she said, "Oh, wish I had started doing this sooner."
Everyone says that.
And I said, "Sweetie, you're what, 23?
Yeah.
Be happy you're starting it now
Now.
and not when you're 55."
Yeah.
and looking back.
And even then, right? Even then, you still have an advantage, whether you're
Yes,
23 or 55, because you have an angle that you can tap into that those two gaps may not have to offer.
that's right.
So, what advice is someone who feels stuck, like they missed their window for change?
Oh, well, first, you're not missed anything, right?
Mhm.
There isn't a timeline. You're on the timeline you're supposed to be on.
Before you go there, how, how many times have we seen the same thing rinsed and repeated? Think about
Yeah.
clothes. Think about isms. Think about changes. Hell, think about, and we're not talking about this, but
Yeah.
politics.
When you people that feel stuck, they think they're
Hmm.
broken somehow. We
Yeah.
talked about this earlier, but it just means that you're not stuck. If you have that realization, if you have
Hmm.
that first conversation with me, you go, our first conversation, I'm not going to tell you, okay, let's sit down and do a 5-year goal plan.
No.
I'm going to say, what are you feeling? What makes you happy? What
Mm.
brings you joy?
Yeah.
What did you let go of that you need to pick up again?
That's it.
I'm all about the inner child and letting that
Hmm.
child play, healing that child.
Moni and I talked about that, the coloring book.
Mm.
I talked about that. I also didn't realize. So when I was younger, I loved to read. And so every day, well, specifically when I'm at the gym, I read. When I'm on the elliptical, and I know people are like, "How do you do that?" But it's where I find, my
Yes.
happiest place is when I'm doing my cardio, and then I fall into the character with the book, that storyline, and then I realize, like, man, I remember how I escaped when I was younger too,
Mm.
and my little imagination ran
Oh,
ran away.
that was, my biggest advice for people that feel stuck, feel that something's missing out. Surround yourself with people that reflect your possibilities,
Oh,
your fear.
that's it. And don't cap your potential
There's no cap.
at all.
No,
I don't even see a ceiling.
there's no ceiling. I mean, girl, 60 years old and I'm reinventing myself yet again. Yet
Always.
again.
Always.
I mean, my Instagram has been 4 different names
That's right.
because I evolved.
That's right.
People are like, "Oh, I've had mine for years." Great.
Yeah.
That works for you.
Stay boring.
Yes, but if it works for you because it's your brand and everything
Oh,
like
wait.
that, I get that, I
Oh,
get
wait,
that,
that's
I
that
get that.
empowerment.
Right? But for me, yes, but for me, I'm like, I went from before and after my empty nest. That's when I was a blogger and I was doing
Yeah.
the influencer. And then I became peppy fit foodie
Mhm.
because I love food. I love to
Yep.
cook food. I love to eat food, right? I love fitness and I'm peppy.
Yep.
Right? And I
True.
was joyful purpose yogi and it felt and
Yep.
I'm like, and then it's like, no, no, that's not quite right. And I think I was joyful purpose yogi for like 6 months. And it's like, no, let's change it to coaching with Kathy. We can change.
We are allowed.
We are allowed. Nothing says that we can't.
Yep.
If somebody is telling you that you can't change, you need to change that person.
Yeah, or eliminate them.
Well, that's the change I mean.
There's you and then there's me. I'm like control alt delete. Like
Love that.
so
Oh my God.
how do you help women reclaim confidence when their roles, mother, wife, career, start to shift or fade? We kind of teased into
Yeah.
this, but when things really do start to shift
Mhm.
and when they do start to fade, go.
Who are you beyond those roles?
That's right. There's this lyric and it
Mm.
says, I'm that bitch because I motherfucking said so.
What do you want more of
That's right.
and less of
Thank you.
in this season?
Him and that.
Because we
Hmm.
can't we can always say, "Oh, I'd love to do this, I'd love to do that." But what's holding you back from doing that within yourself and within the people around you?
No, seriously, your
Yes.
circle is so
Huge.
vital.
Mm.
It is literally IV hydration.
Yeah.
It is so nutrient heavy. Please, please
Mm.
take the sunshine. If you don't have sunshine in your circle, eliminate the chaos because I cannot tell you how harmful it is continuing staying friends with someone who you've been friends with for the sake of being friends with.
Well, and I even had that conversation with a friend,
Yeah.
is that we have friends sometimes, and it's hard to say this because the people pleaser and
Mhm.
all those other fears and issues come to play because well, they were me during this.
Yeah.
They helped me get through me through this, but you've grown since then,
Yeah.
and they're still that person.
They are.
And so you need to say thank you so much for everything you did for me and
No.
send them away with love.
Release
I
them
love
with love.
Release them with love. That's my favorite thing, right?
Yeah.
Is like, I love you. I will always love you,
Yeah.
but I can't be around you.
When I meet different people, male, female, potential dating interest, whatever. And I am so open and honest about my healing journey, about my solo journey, about all of these journeys that I'm currently navigating and figuring out. And I always share my ex husband. He still lives here. He's still in the city, but I
Mhm.
released him with love. I don't know where you are. I don't know what you're doing. I don't care, but stay over there. My ex boyfriend, we lived on the same street after we broke up. I released his ass with love too,
Mhm.
but I was like, stay on your side of the street.
Yes. Yes.
It is okay for letting shit go.
Yes.
The shit can stay, but let it stay over there.
Mhm.
I'm not going to explain to you what you did to me.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know,
There's no use wasting my voice, my time, my energy.
like,
I recommend that if you are listening to this podcast and you struggle in your friendships, we know someone who is amazing and does amazing workshops about friendships and
yep.
recognizing those rare friendships and those ugly friendships. You know
Hmm.
who I'm talking about, Miss
Yep.
Moni,
That's right.
right? And a, a lot of people will say, well, why are you sitting here recommending another woman who does something similar to you? Can't you help people with friendships? I said, I do. I have those conversations. My women's group had that conversation about toxic friendships and how do we deal with them, right? And boundaries and all those conversations. We have those conversations. I have those conversations constantly with clients.
Yep.
But if you can't get there, if you want this one finite, why wouldn't I recommend someone who's really just
Curated.
curated,
And
honed in on that one thing and does it so
and
well.
and let's be real, enjoys doing the work,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Enjoys doing the work
Yeah.
and has perfected
Yeah.
the art of closing the gap.
Yes.
And has had successful opportunities and pathways created for this area that has a major deficiency in wholeness,
Yes.
in
Yeah.
friendships, in identity friendships, and checking yourself at the door,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Because you probably are the problem too.
Yeah.
Let's do a little introspection because
Mhm.
if
There's a whole page on that in the workshop that I did with my women. It's
exactly,
like, okay, now think about it. Are you that person? Are
exactly.
you doing those things
Yeah, because
with
victim
somebody else?
mentality, yep, victim mentality is real. And we're all guilty of the poor me. They did this to me. This happened this way. But it's like, okay, quit ruminating on it. Ruminating is just sitting there and stewing in it.
Yes.
It's not allowing you to move past because you just feel like it was just so hard. Yeah, get over it, move on.
Move on. And
Like,
that's right. So you asked about reclaiming the confidence, but I want confidence isn't about being loud. Confidence is about being true to who you are now. That's confidence
mm,
and not who you used to be. That's how you that's how you build, that's how you reclaim that confidence.
yeah.
You reclaim who you are.
You have to
Yes.
see her. You
Yes.
have to feel her,
Oh my
love
gosh. The
on her.
vision of myself is 10 times greater than anybody could imagine.
Exactly.
And it should be for all of us.
Exactly. I always say this, no one will love me like me.
Yes.
No one will love me like me. Can you talk about the idea of identity loss during midlife and how you help clients rediscover themselves?
Well, when your kids leave, your job changes, the relationships change. It can feel like a piece of you went with you. Like literally a piece of my uterus went,
I
here you
know.
go, my heart. Because you've spent so long caring for doing that job, being that wife, being that mom,
Yeah.
that all of that identity, it's gone, but it's not.
You're
You
just
and
getting
I both
started.
know it's just right. You've spent so long being that you forget who you are, but that's what's wonderful
Yeah.
about it's not your identity isn't lost. I will always be mom. I didn't give it away because my children got old.
Right.
right? I will always be a mom. A
Mhm.
part of my identity is still there. I'm always going to be a clinical researcher who
Mhm.
specialized in epilepsy. I'm going to always be all of these parts of me. All of these parts of me make the magic of me
That's it.
today.
And you could never recreate that
No.
because it's yours.
Yes.
And I'm not saying you personally,
Yes.
but someone else who may be watching you evolve and don't understand how you got to this point of being XYZ, and then they take little pieces of that and they try to recreate it, but you don't have
Mm,
the sauce.
yeah. Yeah. You're not me.
You're not
Right.
me.
You're not me.
You can try as hard as you want, but it was never your vision. It was never your personality. It was never your magnetism.
Your purpose is something different from my purpose,
Absolutely.
which is different from this person's purpose and this person, what they're meant to do and be. And I tell this to people all the time. In my life, I've had so many pivots, and I've noticed a pattern. When I pivoted against my natural instinct, crap happened in my
Oh,
life.
yeah.
When I listened to my instinct or
Mhm.
the little nuggets that were dropped along my path,
Yeah.
literally went to visit family in Wisconsin, came back to California, driving home, and a car went past me, said, "Escape to Wisconsin." And I went, "Ha ha ha, that's funny. We were just there." Right? It was
Mm.
my husband's grandparents' 50th, and we
Yeah.
went there. And then the next day, visited a friend, and a person was crossing like a apartment complex like this and crossing the little sidewalk, and we stopped and they waved, "Thank you so much." And they're wearing a badger. You'd have badgers. We're like,
Signs.
signs, right? When you open yourself up to the
Mhm.
signs and then you listen to those signs, because you can see those signs and ignore them.
Oh, yeah.
We've all done that,
Yeah.
right? The little red flags we talk about in
Oop.
relationships that we just kind of look the other way
Yeah.
at times in our lives, right? Maybe younger self. But when we see those signs and then the opportunity happens, right? I went into the
Mhm.
office and they said, "We have an opening in Wisconsin."
Okay, bye.
And that was like, okay, I think someone's trying to hit me over the head because I saw three different things after coming back,
Yeah.
and we did. And if you had asked us, if you had asked me where my children would have been born, I
Mhm.
would never in the life of me ever had said Wisconsin
Yeah.
because I was in Southern California.
Yeah.
Years later,
Here we are.
there we are, right? And so having conversations like these, I mean, talking through what someone sees in their life, reconnecting with who they were in the ways that they want to,
Yeah.
letting go of things they don't, revisiting long lost dreams, or
Mm.
maybe they had an itch to learn something and somebody squashed that itch. And now it's like, well, why don't you start learning that now?
Yeah.
Right? It's really about giving ourselves permission.
Mhm.
And sometimes it takes somebody outside to have those conversations.
To make you feel safe.
Yes. To not laugh at you
Yeah.
because you said, "You know what? I want to learn to whatever,
Right.
fill in the blank." And
Exactly.
they're like, "Cool. Well, what's the first step you need to
Yeah.
do that?"
Yeah,
And you're
when I hear somebody say something that's like really different perspective, I'm like, "Oh shit, tell me about that.
yeah.
Help me understand like where you wanna go with this," right? And then before I know it, we done had a whole conversation about vision,
Yes. Well,
you know?
and that's the thing, right, is that sometimes and this is the first thing I say to every person that comes to a clarity call. I do a disclaimer. I am not a
Yeah.
therapist, right? You and I have talked about that, right?
Yep.
I am that line is I am not a therapist.
Yeah.
If you have these following issues, I can't help you with
Mm.
those. You need to seek a professional. I am a life coach, but I'm going to ask you hard questions,
Yeah.
throw some different perspectives at you, and I'm going to say some hard truths,
Yeah.
right? I'm going to point some things out when I see them. I'm
As
going
you
to call
should.
a spade a
Yeah.
spade.
Thank you.
It's like, really? Would you just told me how this person talked to you.
Mhm.
Would you let that somebody say that to your child,
Nope.
to your best friend?
Nope.
Then
Nope.
why are you letting them do it to you?
Right.
Right, so
Yeah.
it's having those conversations, that identity lost, it's really about reconnecting to who you are, who you wanna be, looking at your life. You
Yeah.
know, I have a link on my website for the Wheel of Life, and I love the Wheel of Life because it's like, okay, where are you at in this area of your life?
Mm.
And then where are you at in this and this and this? And where do you now wanna be?
Mhm.
Where do you wanna grow?
Mhm.
Because that gets us started in figuring out, well, maybe you need to start with routines. So
Yeah.
we talk about routines.
Love I love safety.
And so, well, and it's figuring out where we need to work and start. And
Mhm.
then sometimes things pop up,
Oh, yeah.
you
Oh, yeah.
know?
And it's okay. It's okay for things
Yeah.
to pop up. So, what are 2 or 3 practical tools or daily habits that can help someone
Mm.
feel empowered again? And plug your website.
Well, they can go on my website, coachingwithkathy.live. I have a resource section that has freebies. It has freebie videos like the Why No is Your Superpower. I love that one.
But when you do actually fulfill the power of no, you're unstoppable.
Oh, it's like the and there's different ways to say no. I kind
Yeah.
of go through that in the video. It's a little video, 10-minute video. And I kind of go through different ways to say no. Because
Yep.
sometimes the biggest struggle is saying it and you can't just say no. So you have to find other ways to say no
Yep.
that they don't recognize that
That's
it's a
not as
no.
direct. Yeah.
Yes. And so, but for me, I love a morning me moment. I recommend everybody figure out, we'd all love to have an hour. So you figure out, okay, what would you do with an hour
Yeah.
in your morning? But then the alarm goes off or something happens and you only have 45 minutes.
Yep.
So figure out your 45 and then figure out your 30 and then figure out your 15 and then figure out your 10 and then figure out your 5 and then figure out your 2. Because once you figure out what you need to fill your cup in order to put that goodness in,
Yeah.
start your day with goodness.
Start it with
Do
goodness.
not
Yep.
be scrolling. Do not watch the news at all. Do not put that on. Sit in silence,
Oh, my favorite place.
right? Put on some music.
Mhm.
Kitchen dancing, my favorite. Give yourself at least 5 interrupted
Mhm.
minutes just for you.
Moments are good too, right? Because
Walking.
moments can be minutes.
What do you need? Because we all can. What I need and what you need are 2 different things.
Yeah.
And Susie down the street, she needs something completely different.
I just need to be left the fuck alone.
Yeah.
I'm tired. I talked to somebody about this recently. They said, "What is your favorite thing?" I said, "Silence." And I dead ass mean that. I can sit with you and not talk to you, and it's not uncomfortable for
Yeah.
me because we're sharing space.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say I'm a clinically trained professional, but I'm talking about my personal life.
Yeah. Yeah.
That education goes out the window.
Yeah.
I couldn't solve my own problem if I tried.
But that's
And
what others are for.
exactly,
Right.
exactly. That's how you enhance your circle. So let's run it back. So coachingwithkathy.live.
Yes.
And then a first order of business is you said power of no,
Power of no.
and then give yourself, 2 minutes to an hour.
Movement is medicine.
Movement is medicine.
Movement, whatever way it brings you joy.
That's
If
right.
that means cardio for you, if it
Yep.
means a run, if it means a walk, if it means yoga, if it means boxing. Oh my God, I love boxing.
Nice.
It's a great way to work out any frustration. But even dancing in the kitchen, it's not about movement is medicine is not about weight loss.
Right.
It's a reminder that you're alive
Mm,
and this body is damn awesome.
that's right.
Right. Then the check in. What do I need more of in my week? And what do I need less of in my
Ooh, the
week?
less. Yes. Oh
The
my
less is a
God.
big deal. Most people think, oh my God, you're so busy, Kathy, because they see
Mhm.
what I post. I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah.
What did I do
Yeah.
yesterday?
Nothing.
Nothing. I had nothing on my agenda, nothing on my calendar. And
Yeah.
I put nothing on my calendar.
Yeah, as we know, I turned all the way up on Thursday night,
Yeah.
and then Friday, I put myself in timeout on my actual
Yes.
birthday.
Yes.
On my birthday, I
Yes.
was like,
Yes.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
0%. Nobody is
And
getting
that's
access to me.
and that's the
Yeah,
perfect gift for your birthday for you.
exactly.
You gave yourself a birthday present.
I did. And then Saturday, I knew that I had a time slot for my girlfriends that I invited over. And so I said, okay, I'm going to turn on for this bucket of time.
Yes.
And then I'm turning back off. And I went back to my house and I sat in silence Saturday and Sunday. That was the gift I gave
Yes.
myself turning 42. I was like, mm-mm, nope,
No.
nope. And I had actually put myself in timeout for the past 10 days because I was like, okay, Amanda, like chill out.
Yeah.
Like you're going to too many events, you're doing too many things. You need to focus solely on
Yes.
what supports you and you need to realign yourself and you need to readjust your boundaries. You often talk about writing your next best chapter. What does that process look like for your clients?
It's part reflection, vision, action. It's like, it's all of those things. It's that self inquiry. Like I said, what lights you up, what no longer fits. What did you used to love that you tucked away?
Yeah.
right? And create that vision of the life. So I do this. It's called and I'm going to do this here so people can make use of it. It's called the rocking chair exercise. You're
Ooh,
sitting on a porch in the rocking chair. Like it's whatever you're listening to because some people like the city, some people, but you're out there, you're older. Let's put you at 85. That's 25 years from me. What are you looking at from your life? First, well, let's back that up. Who's sitting next to you,
my son.
right? But I had a woman, I asked her that question, and she's just like, "What?" She goes, "It's not the guy I'm with."
Hell no.
But that's the thing, it's like she goes, "How did I not realize
Yeah.
that the person that you want that's sitting next to you is not the person in your life?" And that's a realization, and that's something to talk through, but it's what do you look back at and go, "So glad I did this. I'm
Mhm.
so glad I did that," and we look back and we don't wanna regret. We don't wanna regret giving everything away to everybody else,
They don't deserve it.
right? That friend that was the Debbie Downer every time you got together, but you dropped everything to get
And it was
together.
just certain and then,
Ugh.
and then it was just certain things in my life. Everything always had to be called out or picked upon or
Mm.
picked at. I just released that energy and I cut it. And it was just like, I'm not here for this. I'm not going to allow this. So, speaking of, how do you help someone tune out the noise with expectations from others, with like fear, with shame, to listen to their own intuition?
Well, we love this phrase. That's, I think, the theme of today. You gotta get quiet. You gotta listen to yourself,
Yep.
right? You have to reconnect with that inner self, have deeper conversations with that self,
Yeah.
right? Some people journal,
Yep.
some people meditate,
Mhm.
right? Think about what do I want this next evolution to be,
Yeah.
right? Am I doing this because I'm afraid? Am I doing this because somebody expects this of me? And is it truly something I want to do,
Right.
right? Is this a should? Boundaries, tuning in is tuning others out and connecting back to you.
And what about saying, "How does this serve me?"
Oh, yeah, right?
How does it serve me?
What's draining me? This is one of mine. Would I do this if I wasn't afraid?
That's deep. That's so deep because 11 years ago, I was so afraid to move here because I lived in the South my whole
Mhm.
life. I'd moved from Louisiana to Texas, Texas to Louisiana. No big deal. But I always had the support of my friends and my family.
Yeah.
When I had the opportunity to move to Seattle, I was so afraid because I was moving 2,200 miles away from everything and everyone that I knew. But it was a change that I needed. And one of my cousins that I met as an adult called me and she said, "Amanda, go. Bet on yourself." And I have developed so much joy in the past 11 years, even through the hurt, even through the pain, even through the embarrassment, even through the shame. I have still landed on top. I have still curated a life for my son to be in top status. I don't care. I got bragging rights.
Heck yes.
Like, you know what? I did that. I did that because you know what? I bet on me.
That's right.
And that's
Well,
what it's about.
and so one of the things that I'm working on is a new philosophy,
Mhm.
right? I notice I say it a lot, so I think I'm gonna just run with that, and I'm gonna call it the why not theory. Why not? Because I ask that all the time. I ask that of myself. Do you want to take a picture in dancer in your skirt? Sure, why not?
Why not?
Why not?
Yep.
Why not? Why? 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 Why?
Be curious.
Yes.
Be
Be
curious.
curious. I mean, if we weren't curious, we wouldn't have showed up at that networking event. We wouldn't
Exactly.
have sat next to each other.
Yep.
Be curious. I think that is the biggest thing that people stopped being curious in their
Yeah.
lives a lot of times.
And
Start being curious.
we had just met each other, but we shared so many isms, so many shared looks, so many little giggles together
Mm.
that comes with grace and time. and weathering. Your why not theory. All right. Are there any other affirmations, mantras, or practices that you personally love or share with clients?
I'm allowed to change.
Thank you.
This chapter is mine to
Yours.
write, and I am not behind.
Ever.
I'm just evolving.
Ever.
Evolve, evolve, evolve. And if 5 minutes from now you don't wanna do that thing, don't.
Please don't.
An hour and a half from now, a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, if you change your mind and said, "Yeah, I tried that for a little bit. I'm not feeling it anymore." Guess
Yeah.
what? There's nothing that says you have to stay the course of every little thing you've ever done in your
Or if you go to the event and you're not feeling it,
leave.
leave. And even if you're like, I paid to be here, you know what? Time is money and so is your peace.
Yeah.
You have to definitely hone in on that. So
You get to choose.
yeah,
You.
I will always choose me. I'm here.
That's right. Yes.
I am here and I am not playing with you. What's one midlife lesson that changed your life personally?
Joy doesn't come from checking the boxes.
Good.
It comes from being present. For me, it's I realized that I didn't have to do everything right, that you can do something and still feel that something's missing, that I gave myself permission to explore everything. I get to choose what I do with my life.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter anybody else's
Eh,
expectation. Your joy, my joy, is my responsibility, and it's never too late to
Mm-mm.
claim it.
Do it.
If
Start.
if I want to wear a dress that is for a 20-year-old, guess what? I can wear it.
That's it. I mean,
If
you have the body.
right? It's like, the faces on the women at the event when I in my short skirt and halter top combo thing and my 3-inch tall wedges,
Yeah.
pulled a dancer pose. They're like, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
it's not bad for 60." Huh,
Ha.
guess what? If that's what I wanna do, I can do. And why do we limit ourselves? Why do we let anybody else, anyone else,
Yeah.
limit us?
Yeah. Because you could never. So, what would you say to your younger self now, knowing what you know?
To my younger self, because 'cause I've talked to her,
Yeah.
right?
I got a whole
Yeah,
vlog in my
right?
head.
You're stronger than anyone ever let you believe.
Mm-hmm.
Trust yourself, and you're worth it, right? Your unique qualities, your quirkiness, those are your superpowers.
Seriously.
They're not something somebody has to hide, including yourself,
Thank you.
and above all else, yourself.
Yep.
That's your superpower.
Yeah. Even if you feel invisible, I
Mm.
see you.
It's so wear the swimsuit.
Mm-hmm.
She told me when she found out I was having twins, "Well, I guess you're not gonna wear the bikini anymore."
Shit.
Girl, I'm 60 and I still wear the bikini if I want.
Let me tell you something, Kathy. And I say this
Mm,
all the time. If I have to look at it, so do you. And
that's right.
I love it. I love me.
Right?
So
That's what I tell myself. Be kind to yourself.
be kind to yourself.
It will all unfold.
Exactly. What's the most inspiring transformation you've witnessed in someone you've coached? I always like to pay forward things like this.
For me, it is the realization that the stories that other people were writing for her didn't have to be hers, that she got to choose the boundaries. When I said, "You actually can make the choice to not go to this holiday with your family if you're so miserable when you go there."
Preach.
And she's like, "What? But what will they think?
Who
What does it
cares?
matter?" I said, "Are you happy when you go?"
No.
"No." "So then it doesn't bring you joy. So you go maybe this first time a little less."
Yeah.
I said, "All of these things that we talk about, they're like muscles. We gotta a little at a time, a little stretch that muscle. Take a breath, inhale, exhale, release it, right? And so all of these things, they may sound like, oh, there's no way I'll get there, but they will.
It always works out.
It works out. So for me, it was watching her She texts me after her visit at the holiday, and she goes, "I did it." I'm like, "Well, what'd you do?"
Yeah.
She goes, "In the middle of a diatribe where my mother was telling me all these things that were wrong with me in front of
Mm-mm.
my children and my siblings
Mhm.
and their spouses, I got up from the table and I said, 'Thank you for a fine meal, but I'm out of here.'" And I'm like, that
Drop.
she didn't have to be treated like she was less than,
Yeah.
and I said, "So what did you learn from that?" She goes, "Well, I learned that I could do it." And I said, "Were you," she was afraid. She was really
Mhm.
afraid of what her daughters would think.
Yeah.
And her daughters drove themselves there, so they stayed a little longer, and
Sure.
they came home and they said, "I'm so proud of you, Mom."
Yeah. She took her power back.
Yes. She goes, "I never thought about what she was saying and how that was coming and felt for you.
Yeah.
And that was wrong." And so she just taught her daughters never to take that from someone.
Family can be the most harmful. Like for myself too, I've been very public about my weight loss journey. I use a medication to help boost it
Yeah.
because of hormonal concerns that I had going on, and it stabilized me and it got me to a manageable point. But my cousin was like telling me one day, she was like, "Oh man, we're so proud of you." Da 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 da. She goes, "Man, when I talk about you to our family." They're like, "Well, she didn't do it by herself." Oh, I didn't? Because I'm pretty sure I took that needle and
Mhm.
I stuck myself consciously over and over and over, and I committed to myself to stay the course because
Yes.
I saw the end result. Not only did I did that, I changed the way that I looked at food. I
Mhm.
changed my relationship with food, and I changed my exercise patterns. So yeah, I did that.
And why the frick do you don't have to justify that to
Yeah,
anyone.
for sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
that is your choice, your body. You did it the way
Mhm.
you needed to. They can have their little snarky
Oh yeah.
because guess what? They're damn jealous
Yeah, for sure.
of what you're doing in your life
Yep.
and the
All of
choices
it.
you're making for you.
All of it.
That's, friends, family, people,
Yeah.
right?
And so for the listener who's afraid to start over, what would you say directly to them?
This is what I'd say, right? You're allowed to be scared.
Yeah.
You're allowed to worry and question and have doubts,
Yeah.
but you're not starting from scratch.
No.
You have a whole lifetime, no matter your age that you're going
Mhm.
through this, you have a whole lifetime of experience and knowledge and lived life to pull from to figure out where you're going next.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that, and I mean, no one can take anything from you that
Mm-mm,
you have established.
no.
It's
I
yours.
I am all of those versions of Kathy. I mean, I tell people that all the time, right? I'm not your mother. I'm not your wife. I'm not your best friend. I'm not your boss.
Yeah.
I'm not your coworker. I am the person who is your biggest cheerleader,
Mm.
right? But in the end, those choices are all going to be you. I want you to make your life the most joyous, happy, fulfilling
Yeah.
life that you can have.
No, seriously, and that's
Right?
that's the beauty in it.
And you're not behind, you're not stuck, you're just beginning again.
Yeah, it's that rebirth that we talk about.
Rebirth.
So
Eh,
so for the listener who's afraid to start over, what would you directly say to them?
well, I'm saying this with love, right? You're not starting over, you're starting from. You're bringing all your from experience, from wisdom, from life, from knowledge, from right? You're not starting over.
Yeah,
You're just beginning again.
that's right.
Rebirth.
Rebirth,
Evolution, right?
evolution.
You're that I mean, if you look on my Instagram, there's a little butterfly next to empowerment coach because that is rebirth. That is the butterfly, that caterpillar that went into that chrysalis and
Mm,
blossomed
yep.
afterwards.
My friend described me on my birthday picnic this weekend as a tulip and how she watched me go from a bulb to a flower.
Mm,
And I thought that was such a beautiful analogy. And I was just like, that was so meaningful and it was so lovely. And it was so nice to see somebody who had been with me these past 10 years from start to finish
mhm,
or current, we'll say. And then the rest of the crew that was there were friends that I collected this last year. And I was intentional about who I invited.
yeah.
All right. Well, Kathy, thank you for reminding us that midlife isn't a crisis, it's an opportunity. It's never too late to step into your power, rewrite your narrative, and show up fully for yourself. If you want to learn more about Kathy's work or to get started on your next chapter, all of her links are in the show notes, specifically coachingwithkathy.live. And as always, Solo Fam, your story is not over. You're allowed to begin again and again and again, and this time make it all about you. Catch you next week on Solo in Seattle.